There once was a traveller who had spent many years walking the same winding path through a vast, dense forest. It was a path worn smooth by repetition, the kind of route that almost walks itself. He knew every bend, every stone, every twisted tree branch that reached overhead like ancient arms. And though the trail was familiar, it had grown quiet, too quiet. He no longer felt wonder at the birdsong. The sunlight, once golden and warm, now felt pale and distant. The air had grown heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. For a long time, he told himself to keep going. That maybe he just needed to walk a little further. That if he could push through the silence, push through the stillness, something would change. But the feeling lingered, not of being lost, but of being finished. Not defeated, but done. The road had brought him this far, and for that he was grateful. But deep down he knew this was not the destination. This was the end of a chapter. One morning, as he sat by a small stream, watching the water move with more purpose than he felt, a simple thought entered his mind, so quiet it nearly passed unnoticed. What if the path isn't broken? What if it's just over? He stood and looked behind him, not with regret, but with reverence. That trail had shaped him. It had strengthened his legs, sharpened his eyes, taught him how to endure. But now it offered nothing more to teach. That day he stepped off the trail, not recklessly, not in a fit of rebellion, but with a quiet courage. He stepped into unknown terrain where the trees grew closer and the ground was uneven. There was no map, no clear destination. But something stirred in his chest for the first time in years, a flicker of life, a whisper of purpose, a sense of calling. Others didn't understand. They had walked that old trail too. They remembered how smooth it was, how reliable. They warned him not to stray. They said the wilderness would swallow him, that safety was in what was known. But the traveller had come to understand something they hadn't. Comfort is not the same as peace. Familiarity is not the same as growth. And ease is not the same as calling. In the new terrain, he stumbled often. The pathless woods scratched at his skin and clouded his sense of direction. But with each step, he noticed something changing. His senses returned. He could hear birdsong again. He felt the sun as warmth, not just light. And most importantly, he began to recognize something strange and beautiful. The forest was not a barrier. It was an invitation. Not a trap, but a teacher. He began to build, not a shelter to hide in, but a place to grow. A new structure, with no blueprint, but trust. He gathered wood, not from fallen trees of decay, but from trees that had grown strong over time, offering their wisdom in rings of age. Each plank he laid carried intention. Each nail was a choice. It wasn't built in haste. He had no desire to rush. This was not the frantic work of someone trying to prove their worth. It was the quiet work of someone who had finally realized it. The days passed slowly. Some days he doubted the whole thing. He would stare at the unfinished structure and wonder if he had made a mistake by leaving the old path. He would remember how easy it had been to just keep walking, to keep moving without thinking. But those memories didn't tempt him anymore. They humbled him. Because now he was not just a traveller, he was a builder. He began to understand something sacred. A turning point is not always a loud event. It's not always a dramatic storm or a crashing revelation. Sometimes it's a whisper, a slow dawning, a moment when you stop asking for the path to change and realize you're the one being changed. People started to visit, not because he invited them, but because something about what he was doing called to them. They came not to admire his work, but to ask questions. How did you know it was time to leave the old road? How do you know where to go when there's no trail to follow? He never gave the same answer twice, because the truth is, no two turning points are the same, but he always told them this: you'll know it's time when the silence inside you grows louder than the noise around you. When peace no longer comes from the path you're walking, but from the path waiting to be made. Years passed. The structure he built grew slowly, taking shape with him. It wasn't grand in the way his old trail had been predictable, but it was true. Every beam and wall bore the mark of choice. There were rooms for stillness, rooms for work, windows placed not for appearance, but to catch the precise angle of the morning sun that reminded him of grace. He understood now. A turning point isn't about running away. It's about coming home to the person you were always meant to become. It's not the rejection of your past, but the honoring of it by refusing to stay there. He had not abandoned the old path. He had completed it. And in that completion, he found strength, not to cling, but to create. One day, standing outside his structure, he looked out at the forest, and he knew there would be more turning points. Seasons when this new space would feel small again. Moments when change would come, knocking in a different form. But this time, he would be ready. Because now he knew the truth. Turning points are not interruptions. They are invitations. They are not signs of failure, but signs of faith. They are not moments of weakness, but moments of willingness. He placed his hand on the wall he built with patience and purpose. He smiled, not because it was finished, but because he knew he was just getting started.